All right, so I have the honors to introduce two wonderful, bright women. First is Kim Gajewski. She's a fellow UWIC alumni, member of the UWIC leadership team, and Cyber Guild 2023 Rising Leader Awardee. Kim currently works as a principal consultant for government strategy, policy, and partnership at Mandiant, now part of Google Cloud. She previously served as a director for cyber policy and strategy for the Office of Cyber Infrastructure, Risk and Resilience Policy at the Department of Homeland Security, where she supported federal cyber policy development and implementation. Kim also served as director for election security at the National Security Council, overseeing the government's efforts to safeguard and secure the 2020 elections. Prior to DHS, Kim worked at the Department of Defense, supporting the 2014-2016 international Ebola outbreak response, as well as on cooperative biosafety and biosecurity efforts in Ethiopia. Aubrey Milham, fellow teammate on the UWIC leadership team and director at Mandiant Advocacy, a bipartisan government relations firm located in Washington, D.C. She joined the firm in 2022 and works in the cybersecurity and technology practices. In that role, she advises corporations and trade associations on a wide range of policy issues, including critical infrastructure protection, cybersecurity resilience, information and operational technology, privacy, and content moderation. A Northern California native, Aubrey earned the Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of California, Berkeley, where she majored in political science and minored in public policy. So welcome, Kim and Aubrey.
Hi, everyone. So as we were so kindly introduced, thank you, Edith.
Thank you.
I'm Kim. I am with Mandiant, now part of Google Cloud. I love to say that in the parenthetical.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aubrey. I am with Mandiant Advocacy. Excited to be here with you all today.
So getting this started, I know you guys have had a very long day and are probably, finding that last leg of momentum. But believe it or not, people do generally like to come back to these year after year. And in fact, 1 year ago today was your very first UWIC conference. And I'm sure you came into the day with a lot of ideas about what you wanted from the day, what you wanted from the conference, what you're hoping to get out of it. What advice do you have to folks in this final stretch to make the most of their UWIC day experience?
When I first came into this conference, I just wanted to listen, learn, kind of sit in a corner, and just to echo what everyone's already been saying, I think the best part of this event is truly the people. This event brings in so many people with diverse cyber roles. They are in different levels of their career. And so honestly, just the best advice to close out the day is to sit at a table with people you don't know, introduce yourself, network, because honestly, it's such a great group of people. And it's fun being back here a year later because I remember last year I came and I knew maybe 2 people. And so it's great looking out in the crowd today and seeing a lot of familiar faces. But yeah, even Kim, it's actually our year friendship. We met here at UWIC last year, and so we have a friendiversary today.
Yeah.
But you are a UWIC veteran. Would love to hear kind of your guidance and advice on how to close out the rest of the day.
Yeah. So my biggest piece of advice is that every single person is here for a reason, right? So they're here either to be mentored or to find a mentor or to talk to new friends, colleagues, coworkers, potential opportunities. And so there are no strangers here today. And as scary as it can be, if you see someone cool at another table, if you make eye contact with someone in line for cookies and you don't want to fight over the last one, but you're like, hey, you know what, you seem kind of cool anyway, let's talk. This is the opportunity, right? Everyone here is here to be friendly and approachable, and I have never had someone I've walked up to at one of these events be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now. So it is scary, it is intimidating, but honestly, the worst thing that could happen is that you find out perhaps you're not exactly aligned in where you are in your cyber career, where you want it to be, and it's still a nice way to meet someone and practice. So that's the worst outcome, right? The best outcome is that this person is in your circle or knows friends of friends, is someone that can help you figure out what you want to do with your career path, or someone that can give you advice on how to be involved, or opportunities that you've never heard of or never considered before, and introduce you to those folks. And that's what I found to be the case here at UWIC. So many of the opportunities that I've had over the past couple of years, I can directly trace back to conversations I had in the cookie line or fighting cat for popcorn, so. But UWIC is just, one admittedly very amazing example of all the types of opportunities that there are to network and to meet people in cyber. And so I'm curious, because you are such a gunner, such a go-getter, what other types of things have you found to be good ways to meet people, to network, to find your own way in this huge world of cybersecurity?
I mean, among UWIC, there are so many events that you can go to, especially in the DMV. So just strongly encourage that you go to them. But I think what's even more important than that is when you're meeting people at these events, get their contact information and actually follow up with them. Try to meet for coffee and maintain that relationship. And then that is how you actually kind of build a foundation, build a relationship beyond just kind of initial conversations here. You'll never know what kind of relationships you'll make. So I would say taking it a step further is really important.
Yeah, and I think building off of that too, it's amazing how when you're first getting into this, you know no one, and it's a big scary world, and there's all these different paths and trajectories. But then it turns out that actually this world is really small, sometimes scarily small. And the person you randomly met 2 years ago will pop up in a new field, job, career, part of the industry that actually is super, super important, and you're gonna be working with them all the time. And so I think it's both a blessing and a curse to be able to network and meet these people, but kind of have in the back of your mind that, like, even if you aren't doing something that you're gonna cross paths naturally now, it's very likely if you stay in cybersecurity, especially if you stay in cybersecurity that's oriented around kind of the massive government apparatus, you're going to be crossing paths with this person again. And so even if it is just a polite, still somewhat awkward conversation, at least you've made that introduction, and then the next time you have to talk to them or the next time you have the opportunity to meet them, it's a little bit more of a natural flow. And it's an opportunity to kind of be like, oh yeah, hey, remember we met at this conference 2 years ago or 5 years ago, or, so it is a very small community once you are kind of in the stream and pool. And there are a lot of unique opportunities to talk to folks that you wouldn't otherwise, and then it ends up actually being one of the most valuable connections you might have in the community.
No, definitely. And you're so right, it really is a small community. You and Allie King, I want to give you guys a shout out. You're actually so good at making the community even smaller and introducing people that you have gotten to know. I definitely benefit from our cyber lady brunches. So if anyone is interested, please do reach out. But switching gears a little bit, I want to get into your career a little bit more. Edith mentioned that you worked in the public sector, now you work in the private sector, and just kind of your experience to date. Would love to know kind of any best tips and tricks or recommendations you have on how to succeed in the cyber career world.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we've heard a lot of it today, and the thing I personally struggled with the most was imposter syndrome and translating what my skills were in the government and thinking that absolutely none of them were relevant or useful to the private sector when nothing could be further from the truth. And so that's my biggest takeaway is even if you at all are interested in switching careers or being promoted or moving job roles and you think that you have nothing to bring to the table, nothing could be further from the truth. And cybersecurity is such a massive topic and is so reliant on essentially every other topic, every other process. You could make an argument that whatever skill set you have, if you are a good communicator, if you are a good lawyer, if you are a good engineer, there's a role in cybersecurity for you. And so flipping it on your head and having the conversation about, well, what skills do I have already that would be useful for the cyber community? So if that is, hey, I really understand the legislative process. Cyber legislation is a dark and scary place, but more power to you. If you understand the federal budget cycle and you haven't given up and you want more, cyber budgeting could use a lot of help. And so I think that there are so many different opportunities for you to take those skills and to just put yourself out there in a cyber context. And then also not be afraid to then take those cyber certs and not just get complacent of like, oh, well, I do the budget for cyber, but I don't know how to do any of the router networking, firewalling, Python is my enemy. You should learn some of it. You should take advantage of the resources and opportunities to grow some of your fundamental cyber skills. But by no means should that make or break whether or not you want to do that career. Don't be afraid of the skills you lack, because those are teachable and learnable. Think about what you bring to the table instead.
Definitely. Because there are so many skill sets, as long as you're open to opportunity, have a want to learn. Actually, a really awesome piece of advice I received came from a book that my boss gave me, actually. It's called Ask For It, and it's all about how to empower women to actually ask for the opportunities that they want to do. While the answer to some of my many asks have not always been yes, I found that it's not necessarily no either. It actually opens up discussion for other opportunities, and so that's been really helpful as well.
Yeah, and I think you've had a lot of really interesting opportunities so far, and just the things you've been able to do. What has been your most favorite part of working in cyber so far?
It's funny. When I actually first started working, I just moved to DC, and I had no idea I was going to start a career in cyber. And I feel like I've heard that story from many people before. Instead, I got assigned a congressional hearing to cover on the Log4j vulnerability. Yeah. And at that point in time, I actually had no idea what any of those words meant. And I just remember going down an absolute rabbit hole researching into what does this mean, what is cybersecurity, and kind of from that point on I was hooked. And so fast forward to today, I think my favorite part of cyber remains the same. Every day I'm challenged to learn something new, whether that be I'm going into the day looking at secure by design and OT, or what is food and ag sector doing with cybersecurity. It really largely changes. And so I guess my favorite part is just always being challenged to learn, and working in such an important space with just really inspiring, bright people. It's got to be my favorite.
That's good. Yeah.
Kind of want to dive back into your career a little bit more. You said transitioning into cyber. Would love to hear kind of your path into cyber, because it wasn't as straightforward, and hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I think my path to cyber started when I hit the equivalent of a brick wall in the field that I actually thought I was going to be doing. Shocker, was a really nerdy kid. Had my career picked out when I was in 6th grade. I was going to be an epidemiologist. Super cool. And I studied public health. I was really into public health, and particularly in biosecurity and countering weapons of mass destruction. And it was something that I was really passionate about. I went to school for, I got a master's degree in, and started working in the federal government in biosecurity, biosafety, and got a lot of really cool opportunities, and ended up having the same conversations over and over again, where people were like, oh, well, this policy is the way we did it back in the former Soviet Union days when we had to worry about anthrax bombs. And this is how we do this. This is how we negotiate with other states. This is how we check the safety of laboratories. This is the policy for how we exercise if there was a problem. Everything was written and done, and it was always very retrospective looking. We'd already had those conversations. We already had these massive international treaties and norms. And what I realized was, that was the part that I actually wanted to do, and that part was already done. At that point in time where I was in my career, no one was interested in looking forward and having future conversations about how the policy might be evolving or changing in the landscape. It was very fixed and static, and very established people in the field had very little time to think about how it might be different. And so I realized that was not the career for me, and I wanted to do something in a green field, and I wanted to have conversations that didn't have answers yet. and in spaces and in technology that didn't exist or will continue to evolve, and will continue to chase it and perpetually be behind but try to get ahead. And so that's why I pivoted into cybersecurity, learned all that I could from a technical threat actor perspective, what the government cares about, how to adapt some of the policy, the work that I had been doing, and think about the normative development, some of the really big policy muscles from the countering WFD community, and lifting and shifting and applying that to the cyber community. And there are some nice parallels, like viruses, right? So there are some nice transition points, but yes, I ended up not using the degree I got. Sorry, Mom and Dad, for that.
Skills-based.
Yeah,
Skills-based.
yeah. I retooled, but yeah. I mean, so I think we were a little bit behind on coffee break and all of that. So in an effort to get us back on track, I want to see what kind of parting advice do you have for the good, kind people of today?
It is an amazing thing that there are so many different opportunities and avenues that you can take within cyber, but it's also a little overwhelming. And so I guess just some of the best guidance I take advantage of myself and recommend is get a mentors, get an advocate, because that is just the best way to navigate this field. You've got people in your corner that are going to recommend events like the one today, courses to take, kind of what communities to join, which maybe next steps career-wise. And so it's so helpful. There's people here that know more than you, so take advantage of that. I'm always so grateful for all of my mentors because they help guide me every day. So that would be my piece of advice. Kim, any parting words?
Well, someone earlier in the panel stole it, which was the say yes people, because say
great.
yes but also no. But I mean, say yes to opportunities that scare you, things that if someone is asking you to do it, they must see some capability or belief that you can do it, right? There is some level of I think you can do this, and it's going to be a stretch, and it might be a little bit hard, and it might be a little uncomfortable for a first time around, or it might not be the perfect product when you are done with a draft, but help shape it and craft it and create it. That's one of the best things about being in this industry, is that if you really want to be uncomfortable, you can be uncomfortable your entire career. And you can always be humbled, and you can always be learning, and you can always find different ways of doing things. And the technology continues to evolve and challenge you in ways that you don't expect. And so say yes to those opportunities, say yes to events. It is so easy to get locked into your one piece of the puzzle. It's great, and that's why I love these types of events, to talk about all of the other pieces, hearing about what emerging technology, how that's going to change the space, how the workforce conversation is going to help us fix some of the problems we're facing right now. And the payoff for that is not going to be for the next 10 years, but what a payout that'll be, and what a way to help that pipeline along by being part of this conversation and helping young folks figure out what they want to do in the space. So get involved, say yes, but don't say yes too often that you regret it later.
Awesome.
And that's it. We're out.
Cool.